Ja Morant has had a quick rise from being an unranked high school player committed to a mid-major program at Murray State, where he was able to work his way up, becoming one of the top draft prospects when he was selected with the second overall pick by the Grizzlies back in 2019, before going on to win Rookie of the Year for that season. And since that rookie season, he's been going on to lead one of the top teams in the West. But after a string of controversies over the past month that all came to the head with an Instagram Live that forced the Grizzlies organization to suspend Ja Morant for 6 games, with whispers around the league that he may even be suspended for an additional 50. However, it should be noted right off the start that the investigation into Ja Morant has cleared him of any legal wrongdoing, so this is strictly a matter that will be handled internally within the NBA and the Grizzlies organization. Ja Morant has had a very large role in turning this Grizzlies team from one that was seen as pretty largely underwhelming to one that is now considered must-see TV, which is something that Adam Silver and the NBA must have noticed, as his jersey currently is one of the highest selling in the entire league, as well as the fact that he's on one of the top teams in the West, managing to improve their record season over season while improving and building on his own game as well, seeing his biggest leap last season where he averaged 27, 6, and 7 while leading that Grizzlies team to 56 wins, putting them second in the West, and going into the playoffs where they would beat the Timberwolves in 6 before going on to face the eventual champs and give one of the most memorable series from last year's playoffs, as Ja and the Grizzlies battled it out with the Warriors, creating a minor rivalry between the two teams, due in part to the competitive nature Ja brought to the court every single game. But now going into this season, the team struggled out of the gates early as they were still a little hobbled, but they did eventually catch fire, going on an 11-game win streak at the beginning of January before it came to an end on January 20th against the Lakers. And that was kind of the start of the trouble for Ja and the Grizzlies in the second half of the season, as Ja wasn't majorly involved in that scuffle, but it was only 9 days later when they would end up playing the Pacers that members of Ja's entourage followed a group of Pacers training staff in which they reported seeing red dot lasers follow the car, which that by itself was enough to set the NBA world off. But then days later there were more reports that a 17-year-old boy was going to the courts to officially file charges against Ja Morant for assault, in which the boy claims Ja beat him up before going inside and returning with a gun on his waist while making even more threats. These reports at the time were creating a lot of chaos, and with the team being on the road, veteran Steven Adams had reportedly called a players-only meeting to call out just that, their play on the road, and how players needed to be more focused and locked in while traveling, as the team is a pretty horrible 12-21 when not at home. And by all reports, this speech was mainly directed at Ja himself, who of course went back to his hotel room to reflect on Big Kiwi's wise words and definitely didn't go to a strip club to post a glizzy on the main immediately after, which has brought us to the point that we're currently at, with the uncertainty when Ja Morant will return to his team, as he did recently just release a statement where he says he takes full responsibilities for his actions and is taking more time to focus on his mental health. Ja Morant has quickly become the league's and one of my personal favorite players to watch, though the hope is he'll take this lesson in stride and come back with more motivation to lead his team back to the playoffs.
All of this controversy for Ja raises the question, will Ja bounce back from this? And while this is a unique case for a star as big as Ja, we do have another man we can look to for an example of how this situation might affect Ja's career. Look no further than No Chill Gil. Gilbert Arenas played in the NBA from 2001 to 2012 and was a 3-time All-Star. He, like Ja, unfortunately ran into trouble when he got caught with an unloaded gun in the Wizards locker room in 2009. Arenas was ultimately suspended for 50 games. This marked the start of his career derailing. Arenas had been dealing with injuries beforehand and was already on the decline, but this gun incident really sped the process up, with an example being his fall from 22.6 points per game before the gun incident to 10.8 points per game when he came back. He bounced around for a couple years, and then it was ultimately off to China for Gilbert Arenas. Now, using this example for Ja, if it comes out that he did sneak a gun onto the plane, his punishment will likely be just as severe as Gilbert Arenas. However, Ja is younger and definitely has more potential in his career than Arenas. From this, we can expect the bounce back to be a lot harder, even if he sits most of a season. Ja would be 24 when he comes back, compared to Gilbert's 29 when he came back. So if the worst case scenario happens and it is found out that Ja had a gun on the plane, as long as he doesn't do anything dumber or let it get to his head, he will likely bounce back as a top player with very little doubt. Of course, even if it comes out that he didn't bring a gun onto the plane, he is still in hot water. As previously mentioned, there have been a number of other controversies leading to talk of Ja's sponsorships with Nike and Powerade being at stake if he doesn't clean up his image soon. So if he doesn't smarten up, this controversy will likely hurt his wallet and reputation more than his playing career. To some playing in the NBA, however, wallets and reputation sometimes matter more than the playing career itself. So it's still to be seen whether Ja will let this rough chapter get in his head and affect his play or not. Speaking of reputations, one of the worst parts of all of this is that it's certain that a lot of kids look up to Ja Morant in Memphis. And for Ja to go to one of the most violent and troubled cities in America and essentially roleplay as someone who causes those problems is extremely irresponsible, and that's putting it lightly. Most people with a lot more eyes on them than us have been putting Ja on blast for about a week, so we don't need to tell you what you've already heard. However, someone who has come to Ja's defense is the man we went over earlier, gun-toting Gilbert. Arenas was fairly quick to come out and say that a lot of NBA stars have done similar stunts to Ja, with most just not getting caught. He also mentioned that if he were the Memphis Grizzlies owner, he would have pretended he didn't see it. Honestly, flaming hot take from Gil right there, but you have to applaud him for sticking to his guns on this one. A more neutral and realistic take on the matter is Jalen Rose's. On NBA Countdown, Rose said that like Ja, he got into tons of trouble while adjusting to fame. Rose mentioned how fame can be a drug that not everyone deals with well, and that Ja is now the breadwinner of his family, so it's all on him to grow up before it's too late. Jalen was ultimately happy that no one was arrested or killed in these various incidents, but he also gives a stark warning to Ja that playing around with guns could actually lead to him losing his own life, let alone career. Unfortunately, Ja Morant stands at a crossroad. He's one of the most promising and flashy players in the entire league right now. However, if he keeps pulling stunts like this, he's not going to have many more chances to show off what he even could have been. We can only hope that Ja has learned from all of these controversies in the past year, and doesn't throw away his extremely promising future. He is still very young, and while most people have been going pretty hard on him, if he makes the effort to change and become a positive role model, I'm sure most people will forget about all this stuff in a few years. The NBA as a league is no stranger to star players coming back from controversy. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, maybe consider tossing us a sub, and we'll see you next Monday.